What are the different types of studies for COVID-19 drugs?
I think it's good to have an understanding of the different types of studies and which ones are the ones who provide the best quality of evidence. And those are the ones which we're always trying to conduct. The first type of studies that normally come out is what we call retrospective studies. So basically case series or case studies. So for example, doctors in 3 different hospitals will try the drug A in a few number of patients, and they will gather data from those patients. But there's no control group. The study is not planned from the beginning. It's just the drug has been used in a clinical setting, and they're gathering the evidence of that and publishing it. This can lead to a lot of biases, of course. So we don't consider those studies to be very high quality of evidence, but in some cases it's the only type of evidence that we have. The second type of studies that is higher quality is what we call prospective and observational studies. In these type of studies, you decide in advance that you're going to do a study and you start bringing in patients in a more organized manner. The evidence is a lot better for this one, but you would still not necessarily have what we call a control group. So you have the people who are receiving the drug and that's it. You don't have anything to compare it to. And the last type of study, which is what we consider the highest quality of evidence, is what we call a randomized control trial, or an RCT. And you may have seen this a lot, and this has been talked a lot lately. This is what we call the gold standard in gathering evidence for the use of drugs, and also other type of trials, other type of interventions, I mean. What do we mean by RCT? Randomized, it means that first, you decide in advance how you're going to conduct a study, similar to a prospective study, but you set the parameters of the study from the very beginning. You don't change them as you go along. That's the very first step. So any biases in the researchers don't have a place, because you agree this is how we're going to conduct it. Randomized means that the patients that are going to participate, or the volunteers that are going to participate in the study, will be randomly allocated into one group or the other. What that means is that if you have a large enough group of patients or of volunteers, whatever differences between those groups between those people will be equalized in those groups by pure chance. That's what we mean by randomized, and this is very important to ensure that the two groups, apart from the drug that they're going to be receiving, are as similar as possible. The second part is the C, randomized controlled trial. Control means that you have that control group. So you have the group that receives the intervention, in this case the drug, and you have a control group which receives nothing or a placebo. A placebo, in the case of a drug, can be a drug that looks exactly the same, but it's just sugar, for instance. This is important because we know that the very act of receiving treatment and care can have an impact on how people on people's health. So it's always important. It's very important in medicine and in science to have this control group. The best randomized controlled trials will be what we call double blind, but you cannot, sometimes in some cases, you will only have single blind studies. What we mean by blinded is that neither the volunteers or the patients, nor the researchers or the medical doctors will know which patient is in which group. So if I am the doctor treating these patients, I don't know if I'm giving them the drug or the placebo. And no one will know until the very end of the study. So whoever is putting the drugs, labeling the drugs and separating the placebo from the drug is someone completely outside of the research team or the medical team, right? So in this case, we ensure that no biases, neither from the doctors nor from the patients, are getting into the study. These are the highest quality studies that we can get. And normally the results from these studies are what we consider the gold standard in evidence. So again, basically what this means is that I know it can sound like there's conflicting evidence, and first they're saying, oh yeah, this drug is working, and then they're saying this drug is not working. It's because these different studies are coming out and the quality of these varies a lot. So when we can be sure of good results is when we have good quality randomized control trials.